Hey fellow watchers of the multiverse, welcome back to an exciting new episode of our What If series. Today we continue our journey with part 3 of What If the Scarlet Spider was in Spider-Man 2. If you haven't watched part 1 and 2 yet, make sure to check them out first in the playlist to get the full story. We're rolling out tons of new fan fictions and original stories, and there's so much more to come. By supporting us on Patreon and Substack, you'll be getting exclusive perks and behind-the-scenes content. On Substack, you'll be finding like tons of brand new fan fictions that are written by myself. Like, seriously, like once you sign up, you get tons of exclusive content that's specifically on Substack. So a few things that I can say is the 90s Justice League series, what if Transformers were in the MCU, some Marvel vs. DC storylines, and just tons of more perks. So there's a lot of behind the scenes content. And I do want to say, on Patreon, you're going to find a lot of like news articles, breakdowns, exclusive updates that you don't want to miss. Your support is crucial for us to continue to creating high quality content and bringing your favorite characters to life in new and exciting ways. By becoming a member, you'll get early access to tons of videos, special updates, and the chance to support more amazing projects. Thank you for joining us on this epic journey through the multiverse. Stay tuned for even more incredible stories and adventures. Part 3. The news anchor's voice filled the room. In an unexpected turn of events, a new Spider-Man, or some people were calling him the Scarlet Spider, had been patrolling the streets of New York City, thwarting petty criminals and rescuing civilians in need. Theories around his identity were kinda crazy. People thought that Spider-Man had died and that he was replaced. Other people thought that he was an alien. And even some people said that it was just the original with a brand new costume. Maybe it was, or maybe it was something entirely different. Peter's eyes widened. The mention of the Scarlet Spider immediately recalled his old human spider suit that he saw on the television. How could this be going on? He felt a surge of urgency to return to New York and investigate. But before he could dwell further, Harry approached him, placing a hand on his shoulder. "Hey Peter, are you alright? You look like you've seen some type of ghost." Peter forced a smile, trying to mask his turmoil inside. "Yeah, I'm fine. Just something on the news caught my eye." Harry's expression darkened. "If it's about that Spider-Man freak, don't bother. I still can't forgive him for what he did to my father. Sometimes I wish he'd just disappear for good, but that might be happening pretty soon." Peter didn't know what to expect, but he nodded his head, the weight of Harry's words pressing down on him. "I get it, Harry, but right now let's focus on the celebration. We still have to see who gets the award." Harry's face brightened and pulled Peter back into the fold of the party. "That's the spirit. Come on, let's enjoy ourselves in this moment." Peter tried to shake off the unease. He would figure this out later. For now, he needed to be present for his friends, Harry and Otto. They deserved his support, and he wasn't sure about letting them down, but deep down he knew this was far from over. The shadow of his past and the mysterious person of the Scarlet Spider would need to be confronted, sooner rather than later. The room fell silent as the announcer stepped up to the podium. The tension was plausible. Peter, Harry, and Otto stood together, hearts pounding with their anticipation. And the Nobel Peace Prize for groundbreaking advancements in sustainable energy technology goes to... The announcer paused, drawing out the moment. Otto, Harry, and Peter. The room erupted in applause, and the three men looked at each other in stunned disbelief. They made their way to the stage, barely able to contain their excitement as they accepted their award. The crowd's applause grew even louder. One by one, people began to approach the stage, offering congratulations and even got donations. Representatives from various organizations and governments presented checks, each one adding to the growing sense of Aurora. The first check was for $80 million, then another, and another. By the time the fifth check was handed over, the total had reached $400 million. The three men exchanged incredible looks, but the surprises weren't over yet. A representative from a major international foundation approached the microphone. In recognition of your extraordinary contributions to the global energy solutions, we are proud to pledge $19 billion in funding to Oscorp. Peter, Harry, and Otto nearly had a heart attack on stage. The enormity of the support was very overwhelming. The applause seemed to go on forever, and the trio could hardly believe what was happening. By the end of the evening, the total amount of Oscorp funding received was around $60 billion. The magnitude of the support solidified their positions as pioneers in the field of sustainable energy. Peter, amidst the overwhelming joy and disbelief, couldn't help but feel lingering concerns though. Where this money was going to or what was going on, he didn't understand the financial windfall, and it was beyond their wildest dreams. The thought of what awaited him back in New York City casted a shadow over his happiness. As they celebrated, Peter knew that despite the incredible achievement, he would soon have to face the unresolved mysteries back home with the Scarlet Spider impostor. But for now, he allowed himself to share in the triumph with his friends, savoring the moment of their hard-earned success. The after-party was in full swing, filled with laughter and music, as the guests celebrated the trio's monumental achievement. Peter, however, felt a restlessness that he couldn't shake. He slipped out of the crowd venue, needing a moment alone. As he wandered a few blocks away, he heard the sound of a scuffle. He turned a corner and saw someone being beaten up in an alleyway. Peter's heart raced, and he prepared to intervene, but as he started to move, he realized his powers were not intact. He felt a pang of frustration and helplessness. Peter watched from the shadows until the attackers fled. The victim, bruised but conscious, slowly got up to his feet and stumbled away. Peter clenched his fists. He felt a deep sense of responsibility that he might have failed. With a heavy heart, he returned to the party. He saw Harry and Otto, their faces lit with joy, and he forced himself to rejoin in on the celebration, putting on a brave face. The next day, the three of them boarded a flight back to New York City. Harry and Otto were animated, discussing their plans for the new machines and how they would utilize the massive funding. Peter tried to share in their enthusiasm, but his mind was somewhere else. Once they landed, Harry and Otto went straight to work. They were overseeing the unpacking of the machine at the docks and starting the process of rebuilding in their new machine and expanding the lab. Oscorp was buzzing with activity. The future was looking brighter than before. Peter, meanwhile, returned to his apartment. It was untouched, as if he had never left. He felt a strange sense of displacement, like a ghost in his own life. But he knew that he had to get to the bottom of the mystery. He started his investigation. He combed through the recent newspapers, looking at photos of Spider-Man in action. Each picture was filled with him being confused. He recognized the locations, the angles. He knew he had taken the photos, but how could that be possible when he wasn't there? Peter pinned the clampings on the wall, a web of confusion and suspicion forming in his mind. Peter needed to find the answers, but he dug more deep. At the same time, Harry and Otto worked tirelessly at the docks, rebuilding the machine after the event. Their excitement was huge as they discussed the potential applications and the impact that they could make with their new funding. The machine began to take shape, piece by piece, a symbol of their success and ambition. But back at Peter's apartment, he sat on his desk, surrounded by papers and photographs. He knew that he had to unravel what was going on to understand how his life had been altered in his absence. The puzzle pieces were there, but the picture they formed were still very unclear. Peter, back in New York City, couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. He decided to check in on Aunt May, hoping to find maybe at least little answers. As he approached her house, he noticed a familiar bike outside. It looked just like his old one from when he used to work at Joe's Pizza before he got fired. Curious and slightly anxious, Peter sneaked towards the house. He heard voices coming from inside. Climbing the wall seemed like the best way to get a better look, but his powers still weren't working. Frustrated, he opted to crouching near the slightly open front door, listening intently. As he listened, his heart sank. He heard a voice that sounded eerily like his own, talking to Aunt May about Uncle Ben. The voice was recounting how Uncle Ben died because of him, a story Peter had kept buried deep within himself. He had so much anger flared up inside of him. That was his story to tell, not some impostor's. Peeking through the door, he saw the source of the voice, a man who looked exactly like him, but with blonde hair. The man, Ben, was sitting with Aunt May, his posture tense, his eyes filled with pain and confusion. Peter's blood boiled, but he was unable to confront the impostor due to his lack of powers. He turned and ran as fast as he could away from the house, and the twisted version of his life being played out inside. Inside, Ben felt a sudden jolt of unease. He glanced towards the door and saw a fleeting figure, a man who looked just like him. Startled, he almost fell off of his chair. Without a second thought, he bolted for the door, chasing after the mysterious figure. But when Ben reached the street, the man was gone. He stood there, panting, his mind racing with questions. Who was that? Why did they look exactly like him? Confused and shaken, Ben returned to Aunt May's home. As he walked back, he caught a glimpse of someone watching him from a distance. A figure with dark hair, staring intensely. Ben's heart pounded in his chest. The man turned and disappeared into the shadows before Ben could react. Peter found a hiding spot, watched Ben walk back to Aunt May's house. The blonde hair, the resemblance, it was all too much. His world felt like it was crumbling, reality slipping through his fingers. He had to find out what was going on. He had to find out fast because May was in danger, but he really couldn't do anything. He didn't have his powers, and because of that, any confrontation could really hurt May or himself. While he looked back, he heard a "Hey," and Peter turned to see Mary Jane smiling at Peter. "Hey, what happened to the hair? I really liked it." Peter, confused, didn't say anything. "Well, I'm catching the train to go to my play. Would you like to come, Pete?" Yeah, sure, that sounds great. I think catching up would be great." As they boarded the train, they began to catch up. Peter talked about his trip, and Mary Jane was surprised because she thought that he had come back early. "No, I went to the trip," Peter explained. "I was with Harry and Otto." Peter then grabbed Mary Jane's arm and whispered urgently, "I need to tell you something. Someone is an imposter. Whatever's been happening, you need to stay away from that guy or whoever he is." MJ was shocked by this revelation. She started to understand that maybe Peter was right. As they boarded the train, Peter reiterated that he had been with Harry and Otto. and had no idea what had been going on with her. MJ was skeptical, but before she could say anything, a loud scream pierced the air. The train driver was shot in the chest, and his body fell to the ground. A group of armed men announced that they were going to drive the train into the river. Peter, realizing his powers were useless, knew that he had to try doing something. The robbers pressed the acceleration button and began shooting at passengers, but not killing them. One pointed a gun at Mary Jane. Peter then began having flashbacks of Uncle Ben, helpless to save him. Seeing Mary Jane at gunpoint, about to be killed, something snapped within him. As the robber was about to pull the trigger, Peter felt his powers surge back. At the same time, a loud thud was heard as the Scarlet Spider landed on the train. Peter, who had just stopped one robber, saw the Scarlet Spider using his webs to stop the train. As the Scarlet Spider fought, his mask came off due to the controls sparking. Scarlet Spider removed his mask as he began looking at the train conductor who was hurt. "We need someone to help him." Ben then used his webs to web the man's chest to maybe stop the bleeding. He turned to look straight ahead and saw that they were heading towards their deaths. Without hesitation, Ben started looking around, using his legs to stop the train. But that didn't do the trick, so he thought of using his webs, and he did. The webs took a large toll on him as he screamed out in pain. Ben stopped the train right before it was about to hit. His eyes widened and Ben fell, but people grabbed him. Peter froze, recognizing the face. It was his own. MJ, wide-eyed, looked at Peter. "Is that?" Peter nodded. "I don't know, but we need to get out of here quickly." Peter saw a few more robbers as they were approaching Scarlet Spider, but Peter quickly took them out beforehand and looked at the other version of himself. It was an exact replica of him. Someone grabbed his mask and handed it back to Scarlet Spider. Peter stood still and slowly left the train. MJ was waiting for Peter outside, but he told MJ to stay safe and that he would explain everything later. "Peter, you're Spider-Man," she said. Peter looked at her and nodded his head as he slipped away through the crowd of people. While at the same time, the Scarlet Spider suddenly got up as people began cheering for him. A large ringing sensation went off, hurling him. He tried to get up, but he couldn't. The robbers who were trying to kill and rob people were arrested. As Ben laid on the floor, slowly crawling back up, flashes began pouring at the same time. The Scarlet Spider suddenly got up as people began cheering for him. A large ringing sensation went off again. He tried, but he couldn't. Ben remembered everything. He remembered fighting Doc Ock, being thrown into the sun machine, and ending up here. Everything came back to him, including how Harry had almost killed him, and his desire to find out where Otto was with the machine. It was as if he was reliving all the events, and somehow he found himself stopping the train again. As these memories flooded back, a few thugs knocked the Scarlet Spider out and dragged him away. And that is going to be it for part 3 of What If the Scarlet Spider was in Spider-Man 2. Now, I do want to say part 4, the finale, will be coming out next week, so I cannot wait to share that part with you. This was a little bit shorter than the previous parts, but I do want to say in time, everything's going to make sense. Let me know your theories in the comments down below. What do you think is going on with the Scarlet Spider? Do you think that he's a clone? Do you think he's from the multiverse? What do you think could be happening? Could he be like some type of anomaly? Like, it's very interesting to see what you guys think of it. But again, I do want to say, if you guys want to find more information about this series, behind the scenes content, If you guys want to see part 4 early, I do suggest becoming a member, as that could be potentially already on the channel for members. But again, recording this video, I don't know that for sure. But again, thank you so much for tuning in to today's content, and I will see you in the finale next week. Thank you so much for tuning in, and have a wonderful day. Peace out.